We are counting down the 10 modern features that are turning today's sailboats from seaworthy vessels into floating liabilities. From cost-cutting shortcuts that guarantee expensive repairs to so-called luxury upgrades that put crews at risk when the weather turns, these are not innovations. They are invitations for disaster. Each item on this list exposes a design trend that trades long-term safety and reliability for showroom gloss, planned obsolescence, or the charter company bottom line. Some will threaten your wallet, others can compromise the very structure that keeps you afloat. Which feature is the most dangerous downgrade of all? Let's start the countdown with number 10. In 10th place, modern sailboats come with interiors that look like they were ordered straight from a Scandinavian furniture catalog. Alpi veneer cabinetry, thin slices of wood glued over marine-grade particle board, gives you that showroom shine, at least until the first real leak or humid season. Particle board is thirsty. Once moisture gets in, it swells, warps, and shreds the veneer like soggy cardboard. When the panels reach about 15% moisture content, they start to balloon, the edges peel, and the only fix is a full replacement. Owners who thought they had scored a bargain end up facing $5,000 to $15,000 in repairs just to stop galley drawers from jamming. Unlike solid wood, there is no sanding or refinishing. Once Alpi veneer fails, it is landfill. The end result is a boat that looks great on day one, but ages like a wet IKEA dresser. This is planned obsolescence dressed up as modern design. Number 9. Bow thrusters on small sailboats promise easy docking, but they come at a steep cost, both to your wallet and to your hull's integrity. Installing one means drilling a wide tunnel through the bow, far below the waterline, just to spin a propeller for a few seconds of sideways push. That is a major hole that can leak, another set of rubber seals that can fail, and another battery bank to maintain. Most small cruisers under 45 feet do not have the hull volume to place the tunnel deep enough, so the prop cavitates or sits close to the surface, making it even more vulnerable to leaks and impact damage. When a seal fails, water does not just trickle in, it floods. Repairs are never simple. You haul the boat out, fit new seals, rewire, and sometimes replace the whole motor. The average fix starts at $10,000, and that is if you catch it early. Bow thrusters mask poor handling and add complexity where skill should be. In the end, it is a convenience feature that creates more risk than reward. 8th place. Flat bottom hulls are sold as the answer to light air performance, but in real-world conditions, they turn every upwind slog into a punishment. The wide, flat sections forward and aft do not slice through waves. They hammer down on them, turning a gentle breeze into a series of body blows. Crew members report vertical acceleration spikes 2 to 3 times higher than on traditional V-shaped hulls, and that pounding is not just uncomfortable, it is dangerous. Fatigue sets in fast, motion sickness rates climb, and the rig takes a beating from constant shock loads. The hull shape that looks great at anchor is a liability in a chop, with every slam sending stress cycles through the deck fittings and mast partners. Over time, this relentless pounding shortens the lifespan of everything above and below decks. It is a design choice made for flat water speed and dockside appeal, not for safe, comfortable passage making when the weather turns foul. On modern production cruisers, twin helm stations have become the default. On a 40-foot family boat, they are a triumph of marketing over engineering. 2 wheels mean 2 sets of cables, pulleys, and linkage points. Each one a new source of friction, each one a potential failure. Every extra meter of cable adds drag, and every extra joint doubles the chances of a jam or a snap. When the autopilot is engaged, it is now driving twice the mechanical load. That means higher amperage, more heat, and a higher risk of burnout. Surveyors report autopilot failures on twin helm boats at nearly double the rate of single helm setups. The supposed benefit is race boat style, but these boats are not racing. They are hauling groceries and kids. Meanwhile, cockpit space shrinks. Each wheel eats up prime seating, and the only thing you gain is a clear sightline from either rail, irrelevant when you are motoring into a marina. The end result is a cockpit that is harder to move through, more expensive to maintain, and more likely to strand you when the steering jams. This is not progress, it is a liability dressed as a lifestyle upgrade. In sixth place, the open transom, often disguised as a fold-down swim platform, has gutted the stern of the modern sailboat. What used to be a solid watertight barrier is now a giant hole just inches above the waterline. In calm anchorages, it is a beach club. But the moment a following sea builds, it becomes a liability. One wave over the stern and the cockpit floods instantly, with no raised coaming or locker lids to slow the ingress. The numbers are blunt. Production boats with open transoms face up to double the risk of cockpit boarding in heavy weather compared to those with traditional closed sterns. The loss is not just safety, it is storage. Older boats gave you massive lazarettes, often over 100 liters per side, for fenders, sails, and emergency gear. The open transom erases that space and pushes all that gear into the cabin or even into the shower. Charter companies love the easy swim access, but real sailors end up with nowhere to store a spare anchor or a bicycle. Comfort has replaced common sense, and the result is a cockpit that is exposed, cluttered, and dangerously vulnerable when the weather turns foul. Number 5. Digital switching systems like C-Zone and Raymarine touchscreens promise push-button simplicity, but they deliver a new kind of nightmare: the black screen. All of your boat's critical circuits, lights, bilge pumps, and engine start run through a single hub. When that hub fails, you are not just losing convenience, you are losing control. One power surge, one software glitch, or a splash of salt water on the touchscreen, and suddenly the entire electrical system goes dark. In the real world, touchscreens on boats are a liability. Capacitive panels do not register wet fingers, and a rogue wave or condensation can lock you out of every function. Charter fleets have already logged fleet-wide blackouts, forcing crews to rip apart panels and hotwire pumps with jumper leads just to keep afloat. Retrofitting manual toggles after the fact is not cheap. It can run thousands of dollars in labor and parts, and that is if you can even access the wiring buried behind factory-molded liners. The old way, a row of labeled switches, never left you blind at sea. Digital switching turns a minor fault into a full system crisis, putting every sailor at risk of being stranded in the dark. Fourth place. Panoramic hull windows have turned modern sailboats into floating aquariums at the expense of structural integrity. Every square foot of window is a hole punched through the hull's primary load path, ISO 12215 load. Path rules show that stress in the fiberglass laminate jumps by more than 30% around these windows, concentrating forces where the hull is already thinned for the flange. When a wave pounds the side, the flex is not absorbed by a continuous skin. It is transferred to a brittle seam of bedding compound and a few bolts. Leaks are common, but the real nightmare is a fracture. In 2012, a Hans 445 suffered a catastrophic window failure in heavy weather. Water poured in, the laminate delaminated, and the repair required cutting out half the salon. Surveyors report that once a window starts to leak, the damage spreads invisibly. Moisture seeps into the core, rot sets in, and repairs spiral into five-figure territory. Panoramic windows look spectacular at the dock, but in a seaway, they are a structural liability that can turn the interior into a fish tank with a single crack. Coming to the top 3, sail drives represent the single most reckless shortcut in modern sailboat propulsion. The entire system is a giant hole cut through the hull, sealed by nothing more than a rubber boot and a few hose clamps. That rubber boot is the only thing standing between your engine and the ocean. Service intervals are tight, every 7 years if you are lucky, 5 if you are honest, and when the boot cracks or the seal fails, water pours in at rates that can sink a boat in minutes. The nightmare does not end there. The Saildrive casing is aluminum, but the propeller is bronze. Drop those metals into salt water and you have built a galvanic corrosion cell. aluminum dissolves, the bronze prop stays shiny, and your drive leg slowly turns to white powder. The potential difference between aluminum and copper alloys is over 200 millivolts, enough to eat through an unprotected drive in a single season if the anode is not perfect. Owners of Beneteau 40.7 models have logged frantic mid-Atlantic repairs after a split boot, jury-rigging bilge pumps, and epoxy patches just to stay afloat. When the anode is gone, the repair bill starts at $15,000 and climbs fast. There is no easy fix at sea. A shaft drive with a stuffing box you can repack by hand is bulletproof. A sail drive is a time bomb, and the only warning you get is a trickle of seawater before the engine room floods. This is planned obsolescence at its most dangerous. One seal, one anode, one failure away from disaster. Number 3. Glued gridliner construction has turned the structural backbone of modern sailboats into a hidden liability. Instead of traditional glassed-in bulkheads and stringers, production builders now drop a prefabricated grid into the hull and glue it down with blobs of adhesive. This shortcut slashes factory build times, but it comes at a steep cost. The bond between the grid and the hull is impossible to inspect without destructive dismantling. There is no way to see if the glue has failed, if water has crept in, or if voids are lurking beneath the liner. After a grounding, the grid can peel away from the hull, leaving the entire support structure compromised. The infamous Cheeky Rafiki disaster exposed exactly this flaw. When the adhesive bond failed, the keel ripped out, and the boat was lost. Surveyors report that within 10 years, up to 30% of these bonds can weaken, especially in charter fleets where moisture and flexing are relentless. Tap testing is the only non-destructive check, but even that can miss deep failures. A single delamination can mean a repair that costs $40,000 to $60,000 if the boat is not written off entirely. The gridliner hides its own decay, making every grounding a potential death sentence for the hull. Fast production wins, and the owner pays the price when the invisible glue finally lets go. In first place, cast iron keels stand as the single most dangerous cost-cutting measure in modern sailboat construction. The industry loves to brag about innovation, but the truth is brutal. Iron is chosen because it's cheap, not because it's safe. With a density of just 7.2 grams per cubic centimeter, cast iron needs more bulk to match the ballast effect of lead, which weighs 11.3 grams per cubic centimeter. That means a bigger, fatter keel, but with a critical weakness. Iron is hard and brittle, not soft and forgiving like lead. When a keel strikes a rock, lead deforms, absorbing the impact and protecting the hull. Iron transfers that shock straight into the hull grid, cracking fiberglass and shearing keel bolts. The result is catastrophic failures that can start with a single grounding and end with a hull split wide open. The maintenance nightmare is relentless. Iron keels rust from the inside out. Every 5 years, owners face the same ritual: haul out, sandblast the rust, re-epoxy, and pray the corrosion has not crept into the bolts or the flange. Skip a cycle, and the telltale rust bleed stains streak down the hull, clear evidence that the barrier is broken and the metal is weeping brown. Refit yards can charge $40,000 to $80,000 for a full keel rehab on a 40-footer, and that is if the bolts have not seized and the grid has not fractured. In 2018, a Jeannot 49 ran aground off the French coast. The iron keel, already weakened by years of rust, did not absorb the blow. Instead, the force snapped the hull grid, cracked the joint, and left the boat with a repair bill that rivaled its market value. Insurance adjusters see it every year. Iron keels that look fine on the surface, but hide pitted bolts and internal voids where water has crept in and started the slow, unstoppable process of decay. Surveyors know the drill. They tap around the keel flange, listening for a crisp ring. A dull thud means the bond is gone and the rust has taken hold. Ultrasound gauges show wall thickness dropping below 5 mm, an invisible death sentence for the keel. Owners are told to replace bolts, grind, and recoat, but the cycle never ends. Meanwhile, charter companies keep ordering iron because it is a third the price of lead, and the first owner never sees the long-term damage. This is not progress, it is planned obsolescence, disguised as affordability. The verdict is clear. A cast iron keel is a liability bolted to the bottom of your boat, waiting for the day it fails. If you want to sail with confidence, demand lead, demand full inspection, and never trust a keel that bleeds rust. Across all 10 features, one truth stands out. Modern sailboats are engineered for showroom appeal, not real-world survival. Convenience and cost-cutting now override durability and safety. That pattern exposes a dangerous shift, where seaworthiness is sacrificed for short-term luxury. In the end, a true sailing vessel is not built for the first buyer's vacation, but for every storm that follows. Choose substance over sparkle. Your life may depend on it.